Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday Pub. It's a bookish nerdery chat and hangout that I host every Sunday. I hope some people are around because then you can tell me if everything is working on your end as it should be. Say hello in the chat and give me some feedback because Restream has been acting up. I've had some real problems with it today. It's been annoying me quite a lot. But I hope it's working. I hope people are able to connect and see me and hear me and all of that good stuff. So far, no one's commenting. Restream seems to have changed something in their interface. Usually I just save one stream and it's always the same one, and I just reschedule it and put a new thumbnail on it and a new description. And this time it wasn't going through. It was still showing me the Adrian Tchaikovsky special edition we did last weekend. So then I deleted that and put a new one in, and it went live immediately, even though I told it to schedule. And now I'm wondering why no one's commenting. Let me just ask on the Discord. I'm seeing no comments from anybody. I see Raf waiting to join, but I'm just trying to figure this out before I let anyone else in. I was like this close to completely canceling this thing. I was just irritated with it. Anyway, so according to Mattia on the Fireside Discord, it is working. And he says people are talking in the chat, which is interesting because I can't see any of that, which is quite irritating. There's an overlay I can turn on. Yeah. The overlay is showing people's messages, but the chat box in my interface is not at all. Annoying. Man, Restream, what a bad time to be building garbage into your software, because a whole bunch of people, just like me, went and changed from StreamYard to Restream when StreamYard increased their prices by about double. And I'm going to do what Raf said, and I'm going to open the chat on YouTube. One of the tricky things with YouTube for me now is I now have two channels. Most of you probably heard because I was promoting it a fair bit. And when you have two channels, you have to keep watching out and making sure that you don't do something on one channel that should be on the other one. Okay, so I'll take the overlay away. And I've got the chat over to the side in YouTube. Cool. So Raf is here and Jerry is up early.
I am.
Yeah, and it's halftime for sports ball, so I can do the thing that Brian is already waiting for, I guess.
Yeah, do it.
Oh, that's such a great noise.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers, Ray.
Yeah, those tops are really common in Germany.
Yeah.
Like a lot of beers have those tops.
Yeah.
So it's really normal in Germany, but it's like almost
It's
unseen
rare outside.
anywhere else in the world. Yeah.
And feels very posh as a result.
Posh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do really
It's
like them.
expensive beer that has it.
Yeah.
Okay.
out.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So it
In
feels a
a
bit fancy.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
America, there's one sort of mainstreamish, slightly more, I guess, more high-end marketed beer called Grolsch, which I think
Huh?
is Dutch. And
It is Dutch, yes.
Yeah, they have the pop tops, but otherwise you really don't see it very often.
Apparently, Grolsch was the favorite beer of the Frankfurt School of philosophers, all those cultural Marxists like Adorno and Horkheimer. They famously love to drink Grolsch.
Okay.
It's a thinking man's beer.
Which is
Apparently.
why I'm avoiding it. To be fair, it's kind of hard to find in Germany, which is
Okay,
weird.
fair enough.
Yeah, considering you could drive to Holland and get some.
And I can get it at my supermarket.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Foster's. Like
Yeah.
Foster's is all over the world. It's kind of a big deal. But in Australia, nobody
really
drinks it.
not.
It's like the worst beer. No one will touch Foster's. You would never.
Oh, yeah, it's the most basic beer.
Yeah, you'd never order a Foster. It's not even the most basic beer. There are better basic beers. You know, it's just like.
That's what makes it the most basic.
Yeah.
It's
It's just.
There.
Yeah, it's just a beer you would never drink. And actually, I found out when I lived in Hamburg, because Hamburg is a very big brewing city, that if you drink Foster's in Germany, it's brewed in Hamburg.
Oh,
right. It's
okay.
they don't import
Oh, no,
it
they
and
don't.
export it or anything. They just license basically the brand.
Yeah.
It may not even be the at all the same recipe. I have to promote my new T-shirt.
All things serve.
The fucking beam. If you've read The Dark Tower, you know what this shirt is about. I saw this shirt actually on Stephen King's Blue Sky profile.
Well, there you go.
He posted a photo of this shirt, although it's not an official shirt. And then Nerdy Kathy, who is going to watch the replay, Nerdy Kathy found it on eBay, but she said they won't send it to Australia.
No, a lot of places on eBay won't send to New Zealand either.
Yeah, but then I was like, well, I know where it is on eBay. I can have a look, and they will send to Germany. So I got one.
Nice. But did you also get a second one and are now sending it to Nerdy Kathy?
I could have done that, except I have no idea what size she is or which color she would like. I wanted to actually ask her. So Nerdy Kathy, when you see this, write me, tell me what size you are and what color they have available that you like, and I will send you one.
Bless you.
And also send me your address, of course, because I don't have that either.
Just send it to Kathy in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Nerdy Kathy, Australia.
How hard can it be to find someone like that with that name, right?
Exactly.
Everybody knows Nerdy Kathy in Australia.
It's not that big, is it? I mean,
No, it's not. I have actually, in reality and in all seriousness, had people in Europe ask me if I know someone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
try being from New Zealand.
You know the
because
geography.
It's 2 degrees.
Like coast to coast, the geography is as wide as America. And there are over 20 million people.
Yeah.
And they're spread out across all of that land.
Yeah.
But yes, of course I know your friend.
And 4 million of them live in Auckland. So there's oddly a surprisingly good chance that I will know somebody in New Zealand. They've got pretty close to anecdotally proving that New Zealand, forget 6 degrees of separation, it's 2.
Yeah.
So, if I don't know them, I know someone who does.
Probably, yeah. So, I mean, if someone's from Sydney, there's still like 5 million people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just Sydney. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's too many.
Jeroen, you are bringing up something that is indeed true. My choice of drinking beer for every video is quite the challenge.
You're up to it. We believe in you.
I have faith.
I mean, obviously, it kind of works. But when it comes to recording more than one video per day, it gets really tough. Also, the quality of the videos will get worse
True.
over
True.
time, and that's certainly
True.
something I've struggled with when it comes to making those long videos where I have like 20 parts or whatever, and I have to spread them out over the day, or find a non-alcoholic beer with the pop off bottle tops, and there's surprisingly few of those.
Yeah. I can't put comments on the screen because of Restream weirdness. Man, Restream is really pissing me off today. But I want to say hello to people. Dom Otto is here. Thornall's here. Osa's here. Jeroen's here. Terry's here. Colton's here. K2U3 is here. Aslan's here. Daniel's here. So the usual suspects, basically. Bex is here. Brian, the bell tube, is half-timing it at Sports Ball. Anita's here.
Lovely. Evie is here.
And then scrolling further down, Evie is eventually here and only saying hi to Fitz. Thanks, Evie. That's nice.
Hey, let's be fair. If all of us could choose who we spoke to, most of us would choose to speak to cats.
True. And Fitz is a wonderful cat.
She is.
She's entered a new phase, kind of.
Okay.
She's becoming cuddlier. So
nice.
I often take a nap on my sofa, famously. And she has now started joining me. She will. To start with, it's annoying because she weighs 6.5 kilos.
Yeah.
I'm lying on my side.
You have to be comfortable.
She will climb up on my ribs and stand on my ribs.
Okay, so breathing becomes an issue.
Yeah, and I get little paw-sized bruises on my ribs. But eventually she'll sit down and sort of fall over between me and the sofa and just sleep with me while I'm on the sofa. So it's actually very, very cuddly. She's nice.
Yeah, Colton, yesterday was bad. I am not going to rewatch that stream.
Oh, I'm going to now for sure.
Best way to promote it.
The thing that happened was it was a friend's birthday yesterday, so I went to his birthday party and then went from the birthday party to stream and then went back to the birthday party, and I came home at noon today.
Nice. That sounds like an awesome birthday party.
That's a real party.
But it meant that I was already somewhat inebriated when the stream started.
Nice. Like, seriously, have fun with your mates, man. It's important.
I don't know if I said anything particularly egregious yesterday. I don't think so, but then who knows?
But that's okay. You don't have to be egregious to be fun. That's not necessarily an all or nothing scenario.
No.
I rearranged my room last week and my bed's much higher than it was because I have new legs for the bed. The cat doesn't like it. It's too tall because he struggles to get to high places because of his old, very broken hips. And but so I'm missing out on the cat cuddles at the moment. But I also have those little soft like sponge interlocking squares for the floor. I've got like 4 or 5 of them around the place, and I've just stacked 2 of them up beside my chair, and they're exactly apparently the right size for a cat. So I'm like, okay. He's like, I am going to sit in a designated cat spot.
And he does actually do that and not search out your book, newspaper, or whatever else you're trying to pay attention to and starts to sit and sleep on that.
Well, I think he probably would if he was able to jump and get up to my desk, my table or whatever, but he's not. So I'm quite liking the fact that he has gone, a designated square, just big enough for me.
That's pretty cute. Yeah.
I've already demonstrated in the past that I'm someone who does this to books.
Yes.
And I decided I'm going to do that on every pub.
You're hurting me. You're hurting me.
Just to make people
the vision
twitch.
of that flattened paperback, spread open, broken spine.
Very often, just like if I have to
akimbo.
go to the bathroom or get a glass of water or something, I'll put a book like this on the table. Right? So I'll just put it open face down. Yeah. If I'm leaving it for a while, I'll put a Otherland
I don't
bookshop
think it
bookmark in it.
counts anymore if you do
But-
that to books, Matt.
Well, it's about to get worse. Because
don't. Oh,
if I do that and I go out of the room for too long,
yeah.
I will come back and Fitz will be sitting on it.
Oh, yeah. That's a very cat thing.
Yeah, my mother has found out that also works, and like what she does now, because her cat is also constantly sleeping on anything she tries to read, is like she puts out like a newspaper, sits down, waits for the cat to jump and sleep, go to sleep on the newspaper, and then puts out the thing that she actually wants to read.
That's a good idea.
Evie says I'm not a monster. I appreciate it, Evie.
Well,
And Anita is
I
amazed.
actually love the thing that John has. That's like just a stand that you can just sit the open book on, in a just a V. That means you're not
Speaking
laying
of
it
Fitz,
flat. Oh, she's so pretty.
and she hates being picked up.
She's just so magnificent. She's just mighty.
Not a fan.
she's
You're not a
gorgeous.
fan, are you? I am manhandling her, so
Yeah.
I'll put her down, let her do her thing.
Yeah, Mitch, me calling for an uprising of the proletariat is not something that you can connect to me being drunk. That's something I also do.
No,
when I'm
that's just
sober.
standard.
That's extremely Raph.
Yeah,
That's very on brand.
yeah.
Like if anyone
exactly.
asked me, do you know anyone that called for an uprising of the proletariat? I'm like, nah, it's probably Raph.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
I have my fingers crossed behind my back going, no, not at all. I don't know anybody with those sort of leanings at all. No, not at all. Meanwhile,
So
they're looking for you, Raph.
has everybody gone and subscribed to my gaming channel?
I have not yet, but I will definitely do so, even though I have no interest in gaming. But I figure, numbers are numbers, right? So
Exactly. I
I should be doing the same.
I expect not only because it's gaming, but because it's at the moment and probably for a long time, one very specific game.
Mhm.
I expect that nobody will be interested in it, or
Which
at least
is the
none of
specific
you
game?
nerds. But it would be nice to have some numbers. So that is very, very cool if you can do that. It's called Curious Monkey Gaming. I think there was a well, and actually the name doesn't help you at all because it's spelled really weird. You can't search for it. It's
Of course.
It's Qrius monkey, Munkee. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. But I linked to it from the Madame Books channel on the Fireside a couple of days ago, so you can find it from there. A few people have actually even been watching. Jerome has already been. Yeah, there you go. Evie put the proper. No. Evie, it's a U instead of an O on the monkey. But anyway, yeah, and I am at the moment. I'm doing Let's Plays, which are really, really long videos. Each individual video is quite long. But if you search for Medieval Dynasty, spelled normally, that's the game I'm playing. And apparently Brian says that's the way to find it. And the biggest thing that everyone keeps telling me is I've got an ASMR voice.
Yes.
Which
I believe that.
Yeah. Years ago, when I was in university, I was a poor student and I was doing stuff that primarily was computer stuff. And I was limited by not having a computer because back in the day, not everybody had a computer. And I had to go into the computer labs at the university and they weren't always open. And eventually I said to my dad, who had a lot more money than me, hey, Dad, could you help me out with university and could you buy me a computer? And he said, show to me what you're going to be doing with it and prove to me that you need it. And I did my dad was a sort of a hard-ass businessman kind of person. So he was like, justify my investment.
Yeah.
So I made a VCR tape back in the day.
Yep.
Of animations and graphics and stuff that I had been working on in the computer lab. And I did a voiceover for it. And I sent him this in the post. Today it would have been in Dropbox and so on. But or uploaded to YouTube. And he called me and he was like, "I've decided not to buy you a computer. You should be working in radio."
Oh. Not helpful, Dad. Not helpful.
Yeah, I was like, "I'll take that as a compliment, but will you buy me a computer?" And he said, "Yes, I will." So he did, and I graduated.
Well, I'm glad to tell you, Matt, you now have 23 subscribers.
Woohoo! Yeah. You'll probably, I mean, it's interesting. The game is a visual game.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, there's graphics, but it's a lot about building and management and this kind of stuff. So it's not like an action-y game.
Yeah.
So I think just listening to me describe various things about it will actually give you a pretty good concept of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll check out one of the videos for sure. I mean,
yeah, but it's probably boring as hell for a lot of people.
I mean, I saw that you have like 3-hour videos, so
yeah.
Well, that might keep me company later while I'm getting my fabric ready for sale.
If you're into the game, what I'm trying to do, because it's a pretty complex game and a lot of people have a lot of confusion when they start, I'm trying to actually explain things as I go. So I'm just playing through it and going, "Oh, wait a sec, when you want to do this thing, you have to open this up," and then and trying to be sort of helpful. It's weird. It's you don't think of gaming being this way, but it's a game that has a great community.
Nice.
Like the community for this particular game are so nice, generally. It's really, really cool. Brian is saying that I have a great off-camera face. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I was going to make the same joke, but the conversation was interesting, so I kept my gob shut for a change.
Yeah. Happens.
Can do it.
Happens occasionally.
Yes.
So, what are you guys reading at the moment? I guess might be a question.
I'm still reading City of Lost Chances.
What you're reading. Oh, yeah, right.
Because I've been gaming a lot and starting a new channel and all of that. So I haven't been reading very much. I've been reading it for, it feels like 3 months. It's more like 3 weeks. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you
doing? Fabric things. So I've got Discworld going on audio at the moment.
That's always a good choice.
Yep, sure. I'm actually starting to really, really enjoy the new recordings.
They are
bothered me at the beginning. I have stopped bothering me so much, and I'm just enjoying the quality. And they've picked some really strong narrators. Indira Varma doing The Witches is just so good.
You could change your channel name to Derry's Still Reading It.
Oh yeah, I totally could.
Yeah.
Derry's reading it again.
Derry's always reading it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, to be fair, so am I. I always have like my bedtime reading is always a Discworld book.
Yeah, that's how I usually work it. I just am at the moment standing up at my fabric table, so I can't be physically reading anything. And if I'm going to listen to stuff, then I want it to be fun. So. And I thought I'd give Carl a break, so it's Discworld.
This is also a really funny book, City of Lost Chances. I'm really enjoying it, and it's crazy creative. It's quite different than a lot of fantasy stuff I've read. It's set in a city. The only thing it reminds me at all of is China Medieval. It has a Perdido Street Station kind of vibe. In that it's really weird. The weirdness, though, isn't an event. It's like the world. It's just baked in everywhere, on every level. And the main characters are all street level. None of them are heroes. None of them are gods. None of them are super powerful. They
ordinary people.
Yeah, I mean, they're also weird, but they're ordinary weird people.
So like us. It's fine.
Yeah, but I'm having a hard time really like binging it like I do when I really love a certain book, because it's got kind of a funny structure. The chapters are quite short, and every chapter is a different character.
Right.
And not like one of 4, but one of like 15 different characters. So I
It
read
feels a little disjointed, maybe, or
not necessarily disjointed, but it hasn't really. I haven't really hit a point where I'm like, oh, this really flows.
Right.
Like, and I'm really I have to read the next chapter. I have to read because they're sort of separated. I guess disjointed actually is probably kind of accurate.
Yeah.
So I'm like
Yeah.
reading, 2 or 3 chapters, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably good for today.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it though. I love the characters, the weirdness that's going on. I love the world building. I love the story. It's interesting, but yeah, it's just not like pulling me in.
Fair enough. To answer Evie, I have
I was
tried to
good
read
to say.
Nation a couple of times, but I bet Raph has.
Which one?
I have Nation is one of the non-Discworld Terry Pratchett books, and a fairly late non-Discworld Pratchett book. I think the last non-Discworld Pratchett book that he wrote was Dodger, which I've also read, which I liked enjoy.
Dodger. I got into that very quickly and easily. I just have always felt like I need to be in a different mood to read this with Nation, and it's always just gone back on the pile.
Yeah, Nation I think is more serious in a lot of ways, and it's an interesting thing that he does with Nation. So yeah, I've read it. I enjoyed it. I should probably reread it as well. But
I don't know how excited I should be because it's Mitch. So, like, only the biggest troll ever that we love the most. But reread of Assassin's Apprentice, I am genuinely tickled by the fact that Mitch is reading it now for the second time.
I'm genuinely tickled that he's reading a trilogy by my favorite author. He's reading the New York Trilogy by Paul Auster. New York Trilogy was his very first breakthrough novel. It's actually a novel, but it's 3 sort of connected short stories, basically.
Nice.
And if you like it, Mitch, then I would say definitely continue with Paul Auster. But if you don't like it, then I would say definitely continue with Paul Auster, because his very first novel is very different. I mean, he wrote for like 40 years or 50 years. There's definitely other books that are very different from the New York Trilogy, but awesome as well. So
there was something. Daniel. I think it was Daniel who just mentioned Lord Dunsany, and that is something I need to shout out because way too few people read Lord Dunsany, which is a shame.
I've got the King of Elfland's Daughter.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I have a very nice edition with, like every book, but probably not many books anymore, a foreword by Neil Gaiman.
Yes, quite.
Yeah.
Carl's reading Winter Night Trilogy, and I'm so excited. Honestly, I can't thank Evie enough for that either. So far, other than Carl, it's been my series of the year that I've read. So
that's the Russian folklore inspired one. Yeah.
Bear and the Nightingale, Girl in the Tower. Winter Witch. And, they're so beautiful.
That is something that I need to write down, Colton, because I am very much interested in the 1960s counterculture, and I am very much a fan of non-Westeros books by George R. Martin. So it sounds like a perfect combination.
If you're interested in 1960s counterculture, you have to read The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe. It's an absolute. I mean, he was a journalist who was kind of embedded, although nobody used that word back then. Embedded with the original Magic Bus hippies.
Yeah.
So Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and Timothy Leary and all they were all a group that were sort of traveling around together at one point. And Tom Wolfe was with them as a journalist, and he wrote basically it's essentially a novel, really, of what they were doing, and it gives you a real feeling for how bizarre shit was back then, I think, and also how like experimental, like people were testing new boundaries and trying to get out from under their perfect parents from the 50s and all that sort of stuff. The
Kevin,
Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Called the electric
Okay.
Kool-Aid acid test.
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks. I have not yet heard the new Opeth album so far, but it's something that will change in the next couple of days. And it's nice that he narrates and plays flute there. I just saw Jethro Tull on Wednesday, which was
Did
probably
you?
the concert where I have felt the youngest in a long
I
time.
was going to say, they're still alive?
Ian Anderson
Yeah,
is 77
why I was like,
and
really?
is still alive, and he's
Wow.
still very, very active on stage.
Wow.
That's
His audience,
incredible.
however, is a whole other issue. Like
Yeah.
literally, we were there. I was there with some friends for a friend's birthday because she has never seen Jethro Tull. Was like, hey, they're playing close to where I live. Let's all go and
Wow.
watch that. And I'm like, sure. And we were like the youngest people. And we're all like end 30s, and we were definitely the youngest people there. And a lot of people came in with their walking aids and stuff, and it was quite the experience.
I'm not young, and I was a Tull fan when I was in high school. But that was retro. Like, I was basically reacting to 80s music, and I was either listening to rap and punk or I was listening to 60s music. And they were already what I thought of as old back then. So
Yeah.
Does he still stand on one leg on stage? Can you do that at 77? Does he still
think if
stand on one leg on
He
stage?
does still stand on one leg, yes,
Okay.
of course.
Wow.
I don't
Wow.
think he's able to play flute if he's not standing on one leg.
But he probably has a
On
special
stage-
brace for his leg that helps him do
Possibly.
it. But
I don't know. I think that compared to a lot of other musicians from the 60s and 70s and 80s, he has never partied really hard, which is something that you can. The same thing with
Yeah.
Iron Maiden. You can tell Iron Maiden are still physically
Physically good.
Yeah, it has paid off that they did not hit the cocaine as much as other bands.
yeah.
Okay, I just
Who
have
would
to
have-
mention,
who
because
would
it's
have thought?
tickled me tremendously, Restream having the nerve in the chat to go, Restream has got over 100 messages in the chat today. And I'm like, seriously?
Let me check it again. I mean, Brian said earlier, no, I haven't got anything in the chat. I can put on the
That's so
overlay
funny.
and it will take
No
a
new
moment, but it
comments.
will load the comments.
That's terrible. Oh, there you go.
But yeah, if I turn that off, the box I see in the Restream software has no comments in it
That's so
at
rude.
all.
The
It's not
Restream
okay.
software is not a very good software, to put it mildly.
Not super stable. I like the interface. I
Yeah.
feel to me it feels quite easy to use. It's got
And
some
that-
good options.
And like even the
It's
free
less than
version
half
does.
price
Yeah.
of StreamYard if you're paying for the lowest tier subscription.
Yeah.
All good things, but it's proving to be somewhat undependable. I might have to look around.
Yeah, I've been doing these breakfast sprints the last 2 weeks, and I've certainly had struggles with Restream when it just didn't work. Both times it didn't work, or I didn't connect with YouTube at all, and so forth. We're on Mondays, so maybe it's just that Restream, like everyone else, hates Mondays, which is
It just
understandable.
struggles to get going.
But what is really funny
Yeah.
is that I have the free option for now, which does offer more like things than like the free version of StreamYard. But like after every stream, even if it failed a lot and didn't work and so forth, I'll get an email asking me if I don't want to buy the thing. And I'm like, you're not doing well if I can't get the stream going for like 2 hours,
Yeah.
and you then send me an email and ask me if I want to buy the thing. I don't know if that
It's-
works, man.
No.
It's maybe a little bit like Blue Sky. I mean, like StreamYard doubling their pricing, of course, drove a lot of people away, which I think is
Yeah.
actually their strategy. I think they're probably going to be concentrating more on business customers.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
they're
rebranding.
they're thinning
essentially.
out the herd of common booktuber customers. And Blue Sky used to be, like a month ago, it was a really small sort of Twitter clone with much better privacy and blocking functions and all of this sort of stuff.
There's
and
a whole
then-
bunch of
and then
Song of
Twitter-
Ice and Fire creators using Blue Sky.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is moving to Blue Sky now because
Mm.
Twitter just put in some features which are really ugly.
Right.
Like if you block someone, they can see all your stuff still, but you don't see them,
Okay, that defeats the purpose of blocking a person.
doesn't it?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought blocking means I don't want to read your shit. and you can't
Well, for
comment
me,
on my
it's I don't
stuff.
want
That's
that
all I
person
want.
seeing my stuff. I don't want to engage
Well-
with this person in any way.
Generally, most people seem to think it should mean both, which is
Yeah.
which is where I'm at. Like, I want you to not exist on this
Yeah.
network for me.
Yeah.
That means you
that's
can't
like
see
the
my
thing.
stuff and I can't see your stuff.
But with
But, I mean-
Twitter, but everything being public on Twitter, it means like if I block someone and they want to see what I'm saying, they just need to, log out and just look at my
I
stuff
suppose.
afterwards.
That's the other weird thing that Twitter just introduced recently. Twitter is
Yeah.
no longer public.
Oh yeah.
So if you are not
have to
logged
be
into a
signed in
Twitter
to use it.
account, you can't see Twitter messages, which just destroyed a lot of the history of the internet because people used to embed Twitter messages in their blogs and
Yeah.
link to Twitter messages and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. None of that works anymore. So because of that, a lot of people just said, you know what? I'm sick of Mr. X and his
Yeah. He
Twitter.
can get stuff.
And like huge hordes of people are moving over to Blue Sky. I've been on Blue Sky
A month
for
ago, I'd never heard of it. Now I know what it is.
I've been on
just
Blue Sky
by
for like a year.
Just listening.
And in the last month, I've gotten hundreds of new subscribers just because they're all moving over. I call them ex-fugees. They're all moving over from Twitter.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I do very much enjoy Blue Sky's user experience. It's much easier to use and much better to use than Twitter. Despite anything else, it's just like a much cleaner sort of like interface. There's no ads for now, which is nice, and
yeah,
it feels very much like Twitter in like 2005 or 6 or whenever I made my first account.
Totally. When I first joined Twitter, which was a bit before that, it was just full of
what you wanted it to do when you joined.
Full of smart and fun nerds, and people were on there being funny and nice to each other and all of that, and then. Since then, Twitter's become a
one thing I really enjoy on Blue Sky.
Fire.
Yeah, one thing I really enjoy on Blue Sky is that, unlike say Twitter, Blue Sky users are very thoughtful when it comes to using alt text for images, which makes it so much easier to use for me.
Whenever I post a photo, and I always forget to do that. Every time I hit send, right afterwards, I think of you.
Yeah,
Nice.
And I'm like. This software actually has good alt text. I should probably use it.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, bye, Evie.
Bye,
yeah,
Evie.
And hope Max is okay.
I hope Max is doing better. I hate to hear that he's not doing well.
So, yes.
Speaking of pets, Fitz is knocking shit off the cupboard. I'll be right
Seen
back.
the physical copies of Realm of the Elderlings live yesterday. Man, they are a lot. A lot in terms of what, though, Tharnell? Because they're beautiful. And they're lovely. And I mean, you don't have to have physical copies of them. I don't. Well, I do. But I also have them all on my Kindle. And I also have almost all of them on audio because I'm totally not supporting the live ships ones because, oh my God, they're bad. But yeah.
I have different opinions.
Which live ships are bad?
The audio.
Ah, okay.
I don't think. I personally find Paul Boehmer's voice accent weird to read. I have not checked where he's from, but he has like a weird accent.
He does have a weird accent in it. But
is he maybe South African or something? I don't know.
He might be actually with that last name. But
yeah. No, I have no problems with the audiobooks.
I can't stand that woman's voice. It's got to the point where I almost have a physical reaction of agony when I hear. I'm like, no.
Wow.
There's very few narrators where I have that. Luckily, I have not yet listened to the one that Alan narrates, like Philip Chase's book.
It's so good, Raph.
I haven't either.
Good.
But that's the thing. And this is not Alan's fault. This is definitely my fault. I get like some weird physical reaction when I hear his voice. It makes the hair on my neck stand up, and I don't know why. But it's
within moments, I completely forgot that it was my friend Alan doing the voices.
That's what I was kind of afraid of.
He just does it so professionally.
When I heard,
it could be someone, it could be anybody, but whoever it is would become a narration superstar really fast.
When I heard that he was going to do it, I was like, I don't know if I want to hear that because I will be conscious of its Allenness. the whole time.
And
But
I thought the same. I was
Okay.
okay with that because I like Alan and I like Alan's voice. I thought that'll be cool. And then I just completely forgot that it was Alan within moments.
okay.
And I was like, wow, so good.
Yeah.
Like sample
mean,
it
I'm-
at least and see how you go.
Yeah,
But,
I'm gonna
it's
read.
so
I'm gonna
good.
listen to them at some point. I'll probably wait until
So
all
good.
3 are out because I hate to sort of have to wait for the next book in a series. It's not something I'm good at, and which is why I also haven't started the Wars of Light and Shadow yet because there is book 1 and there's book 10 and 11 in audio, and I have no idea if
Which
the
is-
rest will even be done. at
which
some
is
point.
so
Apparently,
bizarre.
we have to pester the publishers for it.
I mean,
for
I
all.
think what happened is they did an audiobook when book 10 came out, because that's sort of like when they decided to also do audio. And then they did one for book 11, the last one, which came out earlier this year. And at that
Yeah.
point, they decided that it makes sense to have the rest as well. So my thought is that they're slowly doing all of them one after the other. But as
Yeah.
so far, only the first one has come out, and nothing new has been announced as far as I know, which is
I imagine
frustrating.
it's going to be very dependent on like sales of 10 and 11, you know,
And
if
also,
they
if
don't
nobody
do that
knows
well.
they've come back to do number 1,
Yeah.
to then buy it and indicate there is a market for it. And yes, Bex, I'm with you on that because Alan doesn't swear anymore. To hear it in the book was a little jarring because that was the one time I was like, oh my god, that's Alan. But
If you need someone with a voice that will calm and put people to sleep, who will swear a lot for you, you can call me.
Yeah.
It's my brain.
I get it now, Thunel. Yes, the Realm of the Elderlings you can read, and if you are doing it on a Kindle and you don't physically have the size of the book in your hands, it's easy to just read them and go like, oh, that was amazing, that was fabulous. But when you actually have to hold the book and it's heavy, it's so big, and you see yourself going through, and there's still so much to go.
Well, and also
this is such a lot of book.
Also, if you're sitting where I am, this is usually where I'm sitting when I read, and right behind the monitor is my bookshelf. So I always refer to the Realm of the Elderlings as 1.5 meters of books.
Yeah, it's a lot of books.
Because I have the sort of classic paperback editions, and they're like this together. They're pretty they're chunky, and all of them together is intimidating. And if you're sitting here reading one of them in like the first or second trilogy, and then you look up and you're like, I still have 1 meter to go.
But here's a question though, because from like the audiobooks, they're not necessarily longer. The audiobooks are not really longer than say the Malazan stuff and some of the Brandon Sanderson stuff. And I'm like, do they feel thicker because they have like maybe a more spaced out layout in the print, so they use more pages, or
they don't feel thicker than Malazan at all. I mean, almost all of the Malazan books are thicker, except maybe than Mad
individually
Ship.
Malazan are
like,
as big.
Mad Ship is as big as a smaller Malazan book, but there are only 10 Malazan books, and there are 16 Realm of the Elderlings, plus the novellas and the short story collection. And
but then there's like 14 Wheel of Time books, and they're also all in that weird range. So
So, hold on, cat needs to go out.
Speaking of books, how about a sprint?
That sounds like a jolly good idea. Allows me to finish the second book of Chronicles.
Cool.
Because I'm reading the Bible, as any God-fearing person should do on Sundays.
I've read the Bible. It's been a while, but I have read it. So let's read until 1:15. Yeah?
Okay.
1:15, all right.
Yeah, enjoy your books and mute yourself, please, if you're on screen. Hello. Derry has apparently been having an ironing sprint or a crafting sprint, or I'm not sure. I wasn't watching. I just saw the iron. Everybody getting reconnected. Raf went and got a new plop.
Yes, the ironing was yesterday. Today is the dealing with the fabric that couldn't be cut without stabilizing. So today is the cutting of the fabric.
What are you making?
I'm actually not making anything at the moment. I'm just using old fabric that I have given new life, will be giving new life to, from op shops, and old clothes that the kids don't want, and just stuff that's not going to ever be worn again.
Okay.
And I'm just cutting them into strips, things that aren't a nice big patch of fabric I can actually make something with. And so all of the weird shaped bits and narrow leg bits and things that just get now cut into strips, and I'll make quilts or rugs or something like that out of.
I was going to say, it sounds like my grandmother. My grandmother was a hardcore quilter.
Yeah.
And she had a whole room in her house just full of little drawers of threads and
like
scraps of
house.
fabric, and yeah.
I literally have a massive 60-litre tub that's very nearly full of just rolls of 2-inch wide fabric, all of different colours, where there's just not enough of any one thing to do anything with.
Wow. Okay.
This will be the last of my fabric stash that I'm putting into a usable form so that I can do something with it.
Cool.
Yeah. And I finished the second book of Chronicles, and everyone is safely tucked away in Babylon now.
Yay!
Perfect.
I don't think that's something you should actually celebrate. It's still called captivity, right?
Yeah.
Darko's here. Welcome, Darko.
Hey, Darko.
Fox is here, or at least, oh no, Fox was commenting earlier. Caro is here and said, just use this sprint to watch the part before the sprint.
That's okay. I've done that.
I guess that's a useful way to deal with a sprint.
Oh, that's
I got a couple, 3 chapters, I think, into, like I said, they're short chapters. 3 chapters into this, and shit's kicking off.
Nice.
It started to pick up, is it?
Well, there in the not the specific story, but in the overall what's going on in the city, there's a feeling from the beginning that something is beginning to boil, and at some point it's going to boil over, and it basically just boiled over.
Has someone incited the proletariat to rise up yet?
Kind of.
Nice.
Yeah, kind of actually.
Spark has been lit.
There's kind of the very general setting, without any spoilers, is there's a weird city, and there's a kingdom from far away, or empire, that has basically developed a concept of perfection, which they are now imposing on the rest of the world.
Because that's always how it goes.
They have these very strict ideas about how everything should be, and they have like a ministry of correct speech and correct thought and this kind of stuff. And they've taken over the city and are kind of ruling the city. And nobody's very happy with it, but they don't have that much choice, because the invading empire is kind of hard to deal with. And the students and workers have just started a bit of an uprising. We'll see how it goes.
Aha.
Yeah.
There's lots of us. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, are we
Sounds
talking
kind
real
of fun.
football, Terry, or are we talking American football?
Pretty sure it's American football.
Terry's American, so I'm sure he's talking about NFL. I doubt he's talking about actual football.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
He's
Liverpool
talking
played
about
particularly well this
the crossover
season.
between rugby and chess, I think.
Yeah. It's got a lot of
Don't
people
often
running
hear
into
rugby
each other
being
like
watched.
rugby, but it's boring like chess.
Yeah. Well, it keeps stopping. Rugby doesn't stop that way.
Exactly.
And there's no pads,
Exactly.
and
I mean, like
no helmets,
for
and
years after watching rugby and Australian rules and whatever in Australia,
it's very sterile American football.
then I came back to America where like you go for a beer every 5 minutes
Because there's nothing going on.
because nothing happens. It's like there's
Now that you're
action.
putting it this way, maybe I'll actually enjoy football.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Maybe.
it's kind of like
I think you've hit the nail on the head as to why people enjoy American football
Yeah.
so much.
it's kind of like going to the cricket match.
Yeah.
Like you don't go to the cricket match to watch the cricket. You go to the
Well,
cricket
you do
match
if
to
you're a
get drunk
cricket-
and hang out with your friends.
Well, let's rephrase. You don't go to a test match.
You don't go
watch
to a
it,
test match, yeah.
but you can go to a T20 for exciting cricket because that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Well, more exciting. I wouldn't exactly
I think
go
it's
so far as to fundamentally call it inherently
The Indian
exciting.
All I
T20
know about
is
cricket-
hugely exciting.
Okay.
All I know about cricket, I've learned from Douglas Adams, which is probably not the best way of learning about cricket.
It's not a wrong way to learn about cricket.
No,
You know, it's
I mean,
not wrong.
he knew his way around cricket for sure, but
Oh, yes.
he did spend a lot of time making fun of it because it is.
I did
I
used
mean,
to find it boring until I learned about the equipment, and then you realize how technical a game it is. And you're like, wow, okay, didn't know that. And now suddenly you understand why people stand where they do. And then when something exciting happens, if you don't know cricket, it doesn't look exciting. But if you do
Yeah.
know cricket, you're like, oh my God, that was amazing.
my
So-
stepdad in Australia used to play on the New South Wales team.
Oh,
Like
wow.
a
Okay, that's
state
not nothing.
team. He was really
Yeah, that's impressive.
he was a bizarrely impressive man. He had to make a choice at one point in his life
Mhm.
whether he was going to become a professional concert pianist because
wow.
he had offers, whether
Yeah.
he was going to become a national cricket player,
Mhm.
or whether he was going to go to the police academy.
Wow. Okay.
And he went to the police academy.
That is the wrong choice.
Yeah, I think that's the wrong choice.
he got a
I mean,
he got a
if
pretty
he's
good
enough
life
to
out of
play
it. But
for New South Wales, then he's good enough to be playing county cricket, so professionally.
he could have
and
played
He
national.
could have played
Yeah.
for Aussie at that point.
Yeah,
and
yeah, he could have
that point,
played
you-
for Australia.
doing something impressive.
But I
'Cause
had someone
all
very
I don't like-
qualified explaining cricket to me, and we used to sit
Yeah.
down and watch it, and I'd be like,
So what's happening?
so
Yeah.
in a 3-day test, and
Yeah.
it's literally
Oh, that's
a
a short
game,
test.
yeah, or a 5-day,
Five
like
days, yeah.
if you're watching a 5-day test, it's literally one game that goes for 5 days.
Yeah.
And there's a morning session, and then there's tea, and then there's an afternoon session.
So it's even
Yeah.
more like chess.
It is
it's
more
so
like chess.
boring. It's
Very
unbelievable.
strategic.
And if
Because
it's
you get
if it's
head-to-head battles between bowlers and batsmen.
yeah,
and
if it's a
You
5-day
see
test,
team changes because of who's
nobody
playing what.
wants to take any risks.
So exciting.
Nobody wants to take any risks. So
So
you'll
when
have a
somebody
guy
starts to really bed
throw
in
a
and
ball at the
start doing
batter.
really well, ooh,
You have a guy throw a ball at the batter 10 times, and the batter will
Next
not
twice.
hit it.
So
quite
to get this
clever.
straight, cricket is basically like baseball, but for posh British people and those who have suffered under the empire, right? Which is why you have tea breaks.
you get the empire bit right. The baseball, not so much. The baseball, there's a whole different set of physics in baseball because the bat is round.
Yeah, true.
Cricket has a
Also,
flattened
just
face.
imagine baseball lasted for
And
5
the
days.
Baseball is
Doesn't it already
soft
last
in
for like
comparison
hours and
to
hours and
cricket.
hours?
And baseball has gloves, and cricket only the wicket keeper is allowed a glove, and the cricket ball is like a rock. So when you see someone in the field take a catch of a cricket ball at the speeds it's going, holy crap, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they're
The number
like
of broken
a
hands I've watched is
professionally thrown cricket ball is
impressive. It will break
literally
fingers,
potentially
it breaks
lethal.
hands.
Like if
Yeah.
you weren't wearing
Well, it
protective
did
gear,
kill an
it would
Australian on the
kill
pitch
guys.
once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a famous moment.
it's
Just
just
like
like really
Yeah.
serious.
As an anecdote, though, when it comes to your stepdad, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden had to make that a similar choice between becoming a member of the Olympic fencing team of the UK or becoming
wow.
staying with Iron Maiden.
Oh wow!
I think he may have made the right choice there.
Definitely when it comes to making money. And then he decided to become like a professional pilot on the side. So,
Yeah,
As
Ron's
you
right.
do.
Indians love kicking the Brits in cricket. But to be fair, the
of
British
course.
cricket team isn't very strong. It's not a hugely
Yeah.
strong game in terms of comparative to India. Indian cricketers are freaking amazing. They had a guy, Sachin Tendulkar, and he was tiny. He was like 5 foot bugger all.
Mm.
And people were like, how could he possibly be the best batsman in the world? He doesn't have enough physical presence to swing a bat enough to get a cricket ball anywhere. This guy was incredible. He understood the physics of cricket so amazingly well that you just, if he got his eye in and he was in the zone, nobody could stop him. And he would just score so many runs. It was insane. He was exciting to watch.
For everybody who doesn't know
Tendulkar.
cricket, the really basic idea of cricket, like in baseball, you have a diamond.
Yeah.
With 4 points. In cricket, you have a line.
Yeah, and you don't go out.
And it's
after a certain number of times to bat.
It's a line with a batter at each end.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy from the other team comes up to the end of the line and throws the ball overhand.
And he's not allowed to bend his arm.
It has to
bounce. To stay straight.
Yeah, his arm has to be straight.
To stay bent.
And the ball has to bounce before it gets to the batter. And then the batter hits it with a flat bat, which is kind of wide compared to a baseball bat. And then the two batters run up and down this line, exchanging ends.
And both of them have to get to the end for one run.
Yeah. That's the really, really basic sort of overview.
It makes you wonder, how did anyone ever come up with that weird sort of setup of rules?
Well, actually, the really original idea, which I didn't mention, of cricket is the wicket. There is a thing at the end of each end of the line are 3 wooden posts stuck in the ground with 2 little bits of wood laying on top of them. And the batter is actually not throwing the
large roll of thread.
The batter is not actually throwing the ball at the batter. He's throwing the ball at those sticks. He's trying to knock those sticks. If he hits those sticks, the batter is out. So the batter is protecting.
Not necessarily. The bails have to come off.
Well, the bails have to come off. But I mean,
because I've seen it happen where they hit the wicket and the bails don't move. And if the bails don't move, it doesn't count. If the 2 little tiny pieces of wood at the top get knocked off and they're just resting in a little groove on the top of the wickets, you've got that batsman out.
So what you're saying is it's basically trying to knock over Stonehenge, but it's made of wood.
Yeah, and the batsman defends. He has to keep.
I mean, they're much the proportions are quite different. The wooden posts are sort of like up to your waist height, and then it's got 2 little bits lying on top. Yeah, and so the batter.
If someone wants to watch cricket, watch the Indian T20 competition. In terms of just being exciting, you'll get it, and it's at least interesting to watch. To learn the game in terms of rules and regulations, find a test match and be bored for many test matches until you get it.
so
the only reason you go to a test is you only go for one day, and the cricket pitches or the cricket stadiums always have a side that is just grass.
Up on the banks.
It's just like a sloped lawn.
They had to ban
you go there
in the Wellington
bring
Stadium.
Picnic stuff and beer and hang out with your friends and ignore the cricket. That's what you do when you go to a cricket match. And every now and then you turn around, you're like, oh yeah, a guy hit the ball. Yeah. Cool.
Well, there's a tradition in Wellington, or there used to be. One of the oldest cricket grounds in the world is in Wellington, the Basin Reserve. And it's actually the biggest roundabout in the world, the Basin Reserve. But they had to ban several years ago, they had to ban the students bringing sofas in during test match cricket because they would carry the sofas to the banks to watch the cricket because you'd then sit in the sun and drink beer and have a lovely time.
Far more comfortable than sitting on the grass.
And then rather than carrying it back when you're drunk, they would set fire to the sofas.
I was going to say that's what you do.
I was also assuming they would set fire to it. I mean, I would.
And they had to ban it. But it was a normal thing in the weeks after Christmas.
So you'd have a cricket match, and at the end, you'd have a flaming sofa.
Carrying sofas to the cricket.
I think there's a scene set at a cricket match in Ian MacDonald's River of Gods, but I haven't gotten back to that during my Ian MacDonald reading
love
yet.
it.
So I'm going on like 10-year-old, 15-year-old memories here.
Yeah, it's a very traditional.
Yeah, also like River of Gods is set in
very-
India, so it makes sense for there to be like a cricket scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
it's
if
one of the
anybody
most
who doesn't
lovely
know what
ways to
cricket
spend a
is,
sunny day.
anybody who doesn't know what cricket is, go onto YouTube and search for cricket highlights because it will look like it's really interesting.
Well, because you get like the two highlights from a whole day.
Exactly. You get
highlights
like,
from the next day.
You get like 10 seconds of 24 hours of literal 24 hours of gameplay. And it looks really exciting, but it's not. It's so boring. It's unbelievably boring, especially on television.
It really is. One of our cricketers has become like a sports pundit in New Zealand, and he's actually really funny. He's really charming, and he was in. They were doing. It was a test match, I think, in India, and he was out on a wicket for a long time, which means he was doing really well, but he got really dehydrated because he'd been out there so long in the heat, and it meant that he started cramping up. And he had the ball bowled at him this one time, and he got such a bad cramp in his leg that he fell over and he shrieked like he'd been shot. And they had just been political unrest in India, so there was a genuine concern that he may have actually been shot.
Right.
And so, but the shot of him screaming as he went down became the comic moment for years afterward, when he would announce the sports news, because you'd just get this soundbite of the scream. And you can find that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So Daniel, if football is just two lines of guys running at each other, we call it a wall of death, and it happens at metal concerts, but we don't stop to discuss afterwards. We go into a circle pit, which is probably why heavy metal concerts are more sports than football.
It's the scrum.
Possibly.
It's the scrum. From rugby, the mosh pit.
Yeah.
The scrum. But,
but American football, I think Daniel's talking about American football. American football is not a scrum.
Yeah.
It's like, I always look at American footballers and I'm like, you guys wouldn't survive 5 minutes in rugby.
They really wouldn't. That's
like
the really bizarre
thing. You wouldn't have
places
pads
that play
and
cricket.
You wouldn't have pads and you're getting injured all the time with pads.
Yeah.
How would you ever play Australian rules football?
How would they? I mean, one of our famous players literally had his sack displaced and continued playing. That's how hard our rugby players are.
Yeah, rugby dudes are very tough.
Pads, so we try to prevent CTE and all that stuff. I'm sure CTE.
You can defend it all you like, Britain. You're wrong.
Yeah,
it's just rugby.
It's just
fine.
I keep looking at it and I'm like,
I bet twice as many people in rugby get CTE than in football.
You'd be surprised how few. Although it is becoming something they're more aware of, and you find that they have started wearing the little thin head pads, and they now have rules around concussion that are far more closely monitored. But in terms of just to their shoulders and their ribs and you're like, dude, they're not wearing pads on their shoulders or their legs.
Yeah, but I think that's the difference. They are they're far more likely in rugby to, tackle like with their bodies. They're not that many head injuries because it's more it's much more like trying to it's closer to mud wrestling is what I'm saying.
Isn't the rule in rugby you're not allowed to hit a guy?
High tackle is not allowed. You'll get sent off.
You've got to hit him below the shoulders.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of it's just also slightly designed differently in terms of physical interaction in rugby, but it's so much more physical than American football. It's so much more
to be fair, a lot of Australians behave like they have CTE anyway, so it probably doesn't show as much.
How would they even know?
Yeah.
If you want to see a sport that you don't know that is much more exciting than cricket, go look at Aussie Rules. Google Aussie or look at Aussie Rules on YouTube.
Because that's Gaelic football plus rugby.
Yeah.
That is
insane. It is crazy. I mean, like literally every time I watch Aussie Rules, I'm like, you guys are defying physics. This is really weird.
Jump. Holy moly.
Jimmy Nuts is here. Hi, Jimmy. How you doing? How are you nuts?
These guys are 6'4", 250 pounds and run.
Jimmy, my
boy. Come on. I tell you what, rugby players are a breed apart. They really are.
Yeah.
They are just they're brick shithouses.
Very small brains, most of them, but they're
not always the brightest of chaps. But I mean, they are often quite lovely.
Hi, Lisa.
What I really appreciate is that as soon as we start slandering American football, all the Americans show up in chat and in the pub.
Yeah. Like,
so I guess it has worked.
Somebody probably texted a whole bunch of Americans and were like, hey, you've got to come defend the NFL.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, those games where you've got to wear all the safety equipment, they're having a go.
The people from the British Empire, they're all slagging off our game.
Yeah.
Yeah, go watch Aussie Rules. I'm serious. Like Aussie Rules
that is worth checking out.
Crazy. They have a thing where they kick the ball really high somewhere into the field, and someone is trying to mark it, which is basically catch it. And they're climbing each other
literally
to catch it. Like, this is a normal part of the game. They climb each other, and you'll have a guy flying like meters up into the air to catch the ball and then fall down.
3.5 meters.
Yeah.
From the ground, his feet will be 3.5 meters. Catching these balls. And you're like, whoa, they're not allowed to tackle each other while they're in the air.
Yeah. The other thing I find amazing, about Aussie Rules football is the ball is shaped. It's like an oval.
The oval.
It's like an American football, but not as pointy.
Yeah.
And you have to bounce it when you run like you do in basketball.
Yeah, it's really, really insane.
As you can imagine, bouncing a sort of egg-shaped ball is an acquired skill.
A non-spherical object does
I
not
tried
bounce
it in high school. We had to play sports, and I played a little Aussie Rules for a while. And every time I tried to bounce the ball, I just lost the ball. Like, you have to bounce it exactly in a certain way.
Oh, yeah, people get mean when you play sports. They'll just fucking take it from you, man. Like, I would play soccer when I was a kid, or football, as you guys call it over there.
Yeah, football, but you play with your feet.
Yeah. Anyway, they take that shit they took that shit way too seriously. Like, they were acting like it was FIFA 2024 over there. I was like, bro,
you have to always play by the rules in football because otherwise it's chaos. And it's we're not talking life and death here. We're talking about football, which is far more important. Yeah. And that's quoting Bill Shankly, one of Liverpool's most famous managers of all time. And I think you'll find most footballing managers are on that same wavelength because it's that important.
Well,
Jesse Anderson, I hope you're not talking to me. No, you're talking to Jimmy. Yeah.
He's talking about Jimmy.
That makes a lot more sense.
Beefcake. It's in the chat.
Yeah,
hey, Jimmy.
Exactly. Jimmy's ankles are.
His knees aren't great.
As big as my fingers.
But his knees aren't great. He's had some trouble with his knees since his wrestling days.
Yeah.
Because he was a professional wrestler once. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I picked that up somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. He might have mentioned it, maybe.
Might have mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah. But he doesn't run. He does do cardio.
He's got about as much fitness. He's got about as much fitness in one of his forearms as I have in my entire body.
Oh, yeah. So, He probably does more exercise a day than I think I've ever done.
I've gotten pretty good this year when it comes to exercise. I do 3 days a week. I do 2 hours of cardio, and the other 2 days I do half an hour of cardio, then half an hour of weights, and then another hour of cardio to sort of slow down. And it's working.
How are you feeling?
It's certainly helping with the summer festivals.
My plan is actually to be so unfit that I die extremely suddenly and don't have to deal with a long prolonged illness.
I'm on that bandwagon. I'm like, no, definitely. I'm going to have the full fat milk. I'm going to have the bacon. I'm going to have the full sugar Coke because it might kill me early, but I don't want to have dementia. I don't need dementia years.
My mother died of cancer. My dad died of complications from a very weird, rare form of dementia. And watching both of those things happen was really unpleasant. And I like the idea of just being hit by a train or something, or just having a fatal heart attack. Like
watching people in decline is really, really emotionally draining, and I don't want that for myself. And I certainly don't want that for people around me. So if, if my terrible diet and lack of exercise means that my heart just goes, enough, I'm okay with that.
Mr. Nuts joins the chat and we start talking about sudden death. Is there a connection?
Well, we
Could
haven't
be.
talked about cancelling our
It's possible.
channels. So maybe.
Man, I haven't gone to the gym in a few years. I started working out a bit, but then I stopped. So
I had a period where I had some friends that had sort of similar schedules, and we were always going to the gym and lifting and stuff together, and that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, it's been a while.
So this was like swole era, Matt.
It was what? The swole
like-
era, Matt.
It was swole.
I don't
era,
think
Matt.
I ever got to that point. I never really wanted to. I was just healthier and fitter than I am now.
Yeah.
You and Jimmy were like flexing muscles in the gym.
I was well behind Jimmy Nuts's fitness.
What is surprising is how fit Philip is.
He hides it well under that tweed, doesn't
He
he?
really does, but that man is fit. He plays tennis.
He plays
runs,
a shitload of
he
tennis,
does
yeah.
so- honestly,
Oh yeah, he would kick
he's
my
quite
ass
an
at tennis.
astonishingly fit man. And yet he looks so, I don't know, quiet and harmless.
Nerdy.
And then you realise he could probably kick your ass. Oh,
possible.
okay.
So what we actually need is booktuber cage fights, right?
Oh, I would be down for that. Seriously, we've been trying in Jimmy's Patreon. We've been trying to sort of go, okay, we know it would be a laugh, but how cool would it be if Jimmy wrestled Philip? That would be kind of cool. We would all watch that.
I mean,
See, if we can start
Totally.
start the cage match
Absolutely.
about 100 meters apart, I would actually beat Jimmy because one of my main hobbies is archery, and I'm a good
there you
shot.
go.
So I could get 5 arrows into Jimmy before he could get to me.
Oh my
So,
God. Ada cleans houses. My sister does this, and that is hard work, man.
yeah.
If Philip is a chain smoker in real
He's-
life, then
Mitch.
I
Philip is not.
doubt that very highly.
Mitch is being a bitch.
Mitch is being Mitch.
Yeah.
Philip very much is my body is a temple kind of man.
Yeah.
But yeah, cleaning
Yeah.
houses, no joke. Darko
I'm like,
has
isn't he a
that exactly right.
vegetarian?
That is
Like,
hard work.
isn't
Yeah.
Philip a vegetarian?
I believe he is. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. He's a
amazing.
very healthy dude.
He's a
Yeah,
very
that's-
healthy man,
yeah.
body and soul. You know,
What
and,
you're
impressive.
saying there, Ida and Darko? Yes, cleaning house is definitely no joke, and that's like one of the things where you can look at like going to the gym and stuff is sort of in a world where we don't actually do physical labor that much, but sit in office chairs all day long. We have to invent some place where we can actually sort of get our physical fitness back. Whereas if you do a physical job, you don't need to go to the gym at that point.
But it's not so much about being fit either. It's having healthy arteries and a healthy heart and having muscles and tendons that function freely. So you probably ache like buggery at the end of the day. I know my sister does, but you are capable every day of doing really difficult things where not everybody is, because you're just not pushing your body to those levels.
The game I've been playing on my new channel really demonstrates that, because it's basically you're building a medieval village.
I mean, it's called Medieval Dynasty.
It's called Medieval Dynasty, right? You're building a medieval village.
What's your new channel called?
You get villagers in. Check Fireside on my channel,
Hey, Mac.
Britain.
Oh,
You get villagers in, and you get them to work for you, right? You can make them do farming or
outsourcing.
blacksmithing or whatever. And I've also been looking at that and thinking, man, if you doing that all day, or no longer doing that all day, is the reason we go to the gym.
Yeah.
Because they died young for lots of different reasons, but
And it was often to do with poor water and poor nutrition.
weren't
wasn't
overweight.
necessarily
Oh yeah,
about-
cholera was not a joke.
No,
Yeah.
It was very different things that killed you early. Lift you around with the elderling shells 5 times a day. Oh yeah, that'd do it. If I did that, I would have guns, but I don't, because I'd rather pick up my Kindle, frankly. But yeah, I think that goes for mental health though as well. In the days when we had to physically work to make our day-to-day lives function,
we had less
We
time
would-
to complain.
I think we were just more connected with just life. What we do now, where we sell our time to have money to live, instead of using our time to live, there's a disconnect from life. What we're doing
Although I
has
think when
no
you were a medieval
actual
peasant,
meaning.
I think medieval
That's what I'm
peasants
saying.
just didn't have any time to live.
But they were connected to
They worked
what
until
they
it was dark
needed
and went to
to
bed.
live. You know, they were.
Yeah.
We started to see depression-like symptoms as we moved into middle classes, and people stopped
thanks,
working
Raph.
for life. They were
Yeah.
working to do something else.
Our connection to what we
I think
need
that's-
became more
yeah.
abstract. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing, because one of the first things that every therapist I've ever known has told me is to go out, garden, go and garden, go
Do some
grow
basic
something.
things. Yeah.
Do something really basic that go back long enough, and these were things that kept you alive.
Yeah.
And I'm sure.
Damn you,
there's
money!
connection.
It's money's fault.
It totally is.
I have read a book that kind of talks about all of that. It comes in like
I'm
three
sure you
volumes,
have.
like every good fantasy. It's called
It makes me so
Capital.
happy. Oh, okay. I didn't make it up whole heart just from my brain. I love that.
No.
That's great.
Also, to be
Cheering,
fair, like every good
brain.
fantasy, the middle book is a bit of a downer.
Ah, funny.
It's like one of those things I wanted to do. It's like I haven't done it yet to make like a video talking about Capital by Marx as if it was a fantasy trilogy.
That's kind of cool. I think
We even
I
had-
watched that one.
I even a friend of mine already made up a wonderful thumbnail for it, which is like it is AI art, but it's Karl Marx dressed as a paladin riding into the sunrise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd get some attention.
Yeah, he has like he used one of not Mid-Journey, but like one of the other ones that you can have like your own version of, and he trained it. There's a training set just socialist propaganda posters, so it looks like that, which is just like perfect.
Oh, I love it.
I really hope that tool doesn't achieve sentience.
Well, yeah, that would be a scary one to achieve sentience.
I mentioned it before. There's a book called Super Intelligence by Nick Bostrom, which is all about AI and where it could go. Not AI as we have it now.
Yeah.
AI as we have it now is machine learning monkeys. It's not AI at all.
Yeah.
But actual AI, like achieving something that could be called conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes it out. It sort of plays thought experiments with all of the possibilities. And yeah, a lot of them don't really look that good for us.
Yeah, because we as humans kind of suck.
Oh yeah, as
not even that. Like
terrible.
it's more his main point was we can't know what a future AI will do, because if it's conscious, you can't give it rules.
Yeah,
like the idea of Asimov's 3 rules of robotics are cute.
It goes out the window the moment it becomes sentient.
Yeah. You can't program something like that into a conscious being.
Somebody, I can't remember who, asked on their Discord a list of questions. Maybe it was Tags. No, it was Tags. Brian did it.
But didn't he create those rules to show all the ways people could subvert them?
Yeah, a lot of his stories, like his robot stories, all basically get to that point at some point. Like, you know, a robot gets past it, or a human subverts it, or whatever. Yeah.
Who's the best villain in science fiction? And my response was humans. We're the ones that screw it up every time.
But
that's the problem.
That's like the thing that is human about rules. Is like every time you give humans rules, what we try to do is find loopholes. It's like whenever you play when we play games, the thing we start is like, how can I actually break those rules and get away with it? That's so deeply ingrained in human nature.
Rules, but twist them in such a way to benefit myself. And I've got the best one. When you play Monopoly, buy 4 houses, don't buy a hotel. Because there's a limited number of houses available. And if you own them all, nobody else can buy them.
This is one of the many reasons that Monopoly is a horrible game.
But that's kind of the point, right? I mean, that's the point of Monopoly.
I mean,
the idea of Monopoly was to show people how capitalism sucks. Yeah. That was the goal.
Yeah.
Well, it was created by a woman in London, and it was called a landlord's.
Yeah, the landlord's game.
Landlord's game. Yeah. It was literally to teach people how they would get trapped if they didn't buy for themselves.
Yeah, you're supposed to hate the experience. That's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
somehow
was
turned
just
into a
showing
game
how
that was in
capitalism
every
works.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because it
it's-
feels really good when you win because you've monopolized something and you're
but
getting
it's
all
such
of
a
the
horrible
benefit.
game in so
And
many
it-
ways. I love
Yeah.
board games.
Which
I
kind
have
of
like
makes the point.
on my shelf over there, I have like
Yeah.
40 board games. I love board games, but Monopoly's the worst one. It's
I think-
so bad.
What is interesting about Monopoly is that it does do the thing that it's supposed to do, and yet people don't actually get the message, which is something that we all can sort of like understand. But like that's the thing that artists and artists need to kind of come to terms with, right? It's like, as an artist, you can do the thing you want to do and try to teach people a lesson, and you have no control over no control whether the people will actually get it or not.
No, what they take from that lesson is always going to be something you didn't intend.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Shall we do another sprint?
Oh, please do, because the tradesmen have just got to the stick and bucket dance in Lords and Ladies.
I guess I should start some of these books.
I'm excited to get back
I'm gonna
to
start Eileen.
I've never heard of that. What is it?
It's like I don't know. I think it's a crime novel, a thriller.
How far into it are you?
I haven't even started it yet.
Oh, okay, that's all right then. I was going to say, if you're
And
halfway through, you don't know, that's a worry.
What's the book? I missed that.
Eileen
by
Otessa Moshfegh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, in that case, it's probably going to be grotesque at some point.
Yes, that's what I've heard. I also think there's a lesbian romance in this, but I'm not entirely sure yet.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'll
Nothing
let you
wrong
guys
with
know as I'm reading
romance.
through it.
All right.
So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
What?
I wanted to tell you about my favorite biblical rule that I found super fascinating when I learned about it. It's in Deuteronomy, and it is literally God telling people, as a rule, you should build a parapet around the roof of your house so no one falls off. And
well, there you go.
And like
Thanks,
in the
God.
long list of divine commandments,
Good advice.
building codes are actually probably a good one. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with that. Falling off roofs sucks.
yeah. God was onto something there.
Yeah, not wrong.
I never realized God had physical safety rules, but
Yeah, no.
I'm here for it.
God invented OSHA, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, thanks for the advice, God. So I'm going to make this one slightly longer. So we'll go until past.
Okay.
Just because I want to get more of my book done, and I want to encourage everybody else to do the same. Please mute yourselves and enjoy your books. Hello. How's
Good afternoon.
reading?
Well, I mean, I just started Eileen, so it's going pretty good.
Cool. Very nice.
And well, it's going.
Well,
It takes place
that's
during
good.
Christmas, so it's. I felt it was appropriate to read during this time of the year.
Remind me, Ron, what is Dreams of Steel? I know I've heard the title, but I don't
It's a Black
remember.
Company novel. It's the
Oh, that's right. That's right.
it's the one after Shadow Games, so it's the 5th if you don't count the Silver Spike.
Right.
It's the
Right,
one where you
right.
get a very different analyst, and I'm not going to spoil who because and I don't want to spoil it for anyone else.
I do know. Terry says he couldn't get past the first Black Company book. I can kind of understand that. It's quite different.
Well, the first book's always the hardest ones.
Well, it's not that the first book is kind of different. The Black Company is kind of different. Like the writing is quite different than a lot of what you see in fantasy. It's nothing like most of what you see in fantasy.
I've been
It has
bad
a
at
lot more in
keeping up
common
with
with
times lately.
Hemingway, I would say, than it does with most fantasy
Yeah.
books. It's extremely pared down. Like Glenn Cook
Yeah.
hesitates to use any word that isn't absolutely 100% necessary.
But every word that is in that
very
book
short.
is there for a purpose, which is what makes
Yeah.
it so rewarding to reread it, because every time you pick up on like another nuance, like, holy shit, he's doing that as well. And I'm like,
Yeah. It's extremely well written. I mean, there's no question that Glenn Cook has more than enough skill, and he's a master stylist as well. Because when the analyst changes, the style also changes considerably. But I can understand having a hard time getting into it. I think Tori also didn't
Tori
really
didn't engage.
roll with it that well.
No.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
She
bounced
really
off
likes Lord of the Flies, which surprised me because
Really?
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
not too
it's one
bad.
I always feel kind of mixed about. It kind of is like, oh, let's have Heart of Darkness just with kids, and you're like,
How
okay.
about the other way around? How about we have Lord of Flies, but with soldiers?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's-
Lord of Flies is newer than Heart of Darkness
Is it?
when it comes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
yeah,
had
that's
this
right.
conversation
Right.
before.
We
Yeah.
have. Yeah. No, we did. I completely forgot about it because my brain sucks.
And I think they're doing
Yeah.
different things, to be sure. They're doing very different things, I would
Yeah.
argue. Yes, it's about like a society that is, or like a group of people that is cut off from the rest of the world and turning into something weird, but
What happens to people if you remove them from civilization?
But they're doing
Yeah,
different
pretty much.
things, right? You have Kurtz
Yeah.
going like all like egomaniac on them, and you have a more like violent society thing happening with William Golding in Lord of the
Yeah.
Flies, right?
Yeah.
I've heard this, and it might be apocryphal, but I think Golding wrote that because he hated being an English teacher for a boarding school.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyone who
children are-
has witnessed teenagers knows that if they're in a group larger than 3, they
Yeah.
somehow regress into some kind of primitive savage.
children
but it only
are
happens in
monsters.
groups larger than 3. And individually, teenagers
Which
are
makes
great.
which makes teenagers more social than your average like gathering of leftists. Because there you only need 2 people to start an argument.
No, I wasn't talking argumentatively, but just in general behaviour. Groups of
Yeah,
teenagers,
I know what you mean. I know what you
They're
mean.
monsters. They're monsters.
but
no
only
question.
in large enough groups. And
Yeah.
it's entertaining to watch happen. Because I don't have a car, I spend a fair amount of time.
Well, I'm
if
like,
I
well,
do
if you
leave
like
the house,
that, you should read Heart of Darkness. It's a really
in
good book.
It's a really good book.
public transport, and you'll see one teenager, and they'll be silent and perfectly, ordinary on the bus. They'll just be minding their own business. 2 teenagers, they'll start chatting away. 3 teenagers, they're chatting away, getting a bit loud. 4 teenagers, none of them give a shit about anything or anybody.
They're throwing things and
And honestly, that's the number. Any
Yeah.
more than 3.
I don't think that's like a teenager thing, because I know how I am. It's like when I'm on public transport, I listen to an audiobook, I'm quiet. If I'm somewhere with a friend on public transport, we'll talk. If there's like 3 of us, we'd probably be drinking beer and being loud and obnoxious. And I'm like, I don't think that's a teenager thing. It's a human thing.
Possibly.
That's
It's
the best
something
thing
I'm
about
only
Germany,
in
actually, is
places,
that
perhaps.
people drink on public transport.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
in America, alcohol anywhere outside of a place that sells it is illegal.
We're not quite that bad, but we do have alcohol ban areas.
I remember the first time I was ever on the Bahn, the subway in Hamburg.
Oh,
So
individually, teenagers can be beautiful. They can be wonderful.
It's
I'm not bagging on teenagers. It's a group thing.
Absolute rhythm in Hamburg.
Yeah.
So just outside of Hamburg, you have all of these suburbs.
Yeah.
And one of them that everybody always makes jokes about is called Pinneberg.
Yeah.
In Pinneberg, every Friday night, all the teenagers in Pinneberg buy a case of beer, bring it onto the train with them, and go into the party district, the Reeperbahn in Hamburg.
Mm-hmm.
So they're drunk by the time they get there because they're teenagers and they can't drink.
Also, it's only like a 20-minute train ride.
Yeah,
Also,
it's a longer train ride.
So preload and you save money.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, like, if
the first time I ever got on the train in Hamburg, I sat down and then I was like, are those teenagers with a case of beer on public transport?
Yeah.
Never seen that before. And then I realized,
isn't the drinking age 18 over there where you guys are at?
No, it's 16 for beer and wine. It's 18 for everything stronger.
Hard spirits, yeah.
It's 18 in New Zealand.
It's 16.
In
So these were like 16, 17-year-olds.
You're in New Zealand, but 16 if you're with a guardian or parent.
Oh, well,
we in
it's
Germany
like-
believe that you should get your first actual, like, full-on getting drunk experience before you can either start to shoot a gun or get a driver's license or
Or
vote.
serve in the military. Yeah.
Or just, just I can see it now.
Get married.
Kids
Vote.
my cousin's age just getting wasted on public transportation.
When I was growing up, like I lived in Washington D.C. when I lived in the U.S. or just outside of D.C., which is Virginia, and in Virginia, the drinking age, at least at the time, was 21. So you could go kill people for your country before you were allowed to drink a beer.
Get married.
And that seems
vote,
like the
do all
dumbest thing in the
adult
world to me.
things. Yeah.
We used
And that was
to.
the argument here when they lowered the drinking age, was if you can sign up at 18 and if you can vote at 18, then you should be able to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
like,
it just it doesn't make
Can
any
you join
sense.
the military and not get drunk there? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, hello.
When I was in high school, we lived in Virginia, but we didn't live very far away from Washington D.C.
Yeah.
In Washington D.C., the drinking age was 18, and I've been pretty tall and older looking since I was like early.
Very
teens.
manly. Would you say you're very manly, Matt?
I wouldn't say I'm very manly, but I'm large.
Fair enough.
You know, I'm like 6'1", and I just had I guess older looking face even before I had a gray beard. So we used to drive into Washington D.C. And of course,
You'd be seen in with
the
everybody's
shop
order.
people in Washington, D.C. are pretty smart. So the bridge across the river, right at the end of the bridge, first thing that you see when you get into D.C. from where we lived is a liquor store.
Also,
So we
nice.
would pull up there. I had a fake ID. I looked pretty old. I would go in and buy a box of beer. You know?
Yeah.
And that was a pretty typical thing for us on weekends because 21, drinking age 21 is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Thornell, that's interesting. I've not been to Romania. I've been to all kinds of places on the Balkans, and they're like everyone smokes constantly in bars, in restaurants. Like the waiter smokes in Serbia. The waiter smokes while he's bringing you your food.
In Serbia, they're
Wow.
still like back in the 1960s. They're
It's
just
it's
smoking
everywhere else in the 50s.
They're working really hard here to completely ban smoking within the next 5 years. Like they're working really hard at it.
Yeah.
And it's working. The numbers of people smoking in New Zealand have been rapidly diminishing.
In Australia, they priced everyone out of it. They
Yeah,
just
that's what
like
they've been doing.
increased the taxes
taxing
by
has been
double every
outrageous.
year.
Yeah. And they've limited, and it's got more and more to the point where you just can't smoke anywhere. Like now, you're even frowned on if you smoke in your car, because if you have children and you have children in your car, well, that's no different to smoking in the house. And so public pressure has joined in to this whole, this is actually really bad for you kind of shtick.
Yeah.
But vaping is going through the roof.
Of course.
You know, and I'm like, okay,
That's why I
anyone
do
who
it.
didn't foresee that was a fool.
But I mean, vaping is also the best studies that have been done on vaping have proven that it is extremely, extremely better for your health, or rather less harmful.
It's less harmful, and it's
than,
just as addictive.
Smoking.
I love the fact that like
it smells so weird. You can get so many different flavors.
it's
I
like
don't never-
does any country outside of Germany and probably Switzerland and Austria have like the snorting tobacco thing? Because we have that and it's weird.
No, that's not really a thing here.
I snorted for a brief period of time. There was some
You snorted?
Yes.
tobacco.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's
Pulverized tobacco.
There's
Just like
snuff tobacco. Yeah.
snuff tobacco. Yes.
And I started it in India because in India they have this snuff called white elephant, and it's wow. If you're feeling a little tired,
Sounds like a type of cocaine.
no, there's no coke in it. I'm not sure exactly what is in it other than tobacco, but
snuff boxes.
oh my
Snuff boxes
god,
are highly collectible.
yeah.
It does. It like the
Orient.
snuff tobacco does very much like kick your ass. It's the kind of thing. Like I don't usually do it. Like usually at like heavy metal festivals, or whatever. Someone usually has one of
Peg is a
those.
Smoker Ida.
If you can get Raph, if you can get white elephant,
It's clearly worth it.
take that to festivals with you. Oh my god! The first time I tried white elephant, I felt like someone had blown a fist-sized hole out of the back of my head.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
You get used to it after a while, but it's really intense, and it will wake you up and give you energy.
What
very
haven't
quickly.
you done, Matt?
It's really good.
You've done a lot of things.
I've never killed a man.
Well done.
As far as you know.
That you'll admit to.
Well, I mean, generally, if you kill a man, you tend to notice, even if it's like with your car, you know. What haven't I done? I have not fathered a child that I know of. That's one where that I know of is actually a relevant addition.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
What else haven't I done? I haven't done a lot of things.
There's lots of things that people haven't done. It's just the
I have
unusual things
done a
that
lot
you
of
have
things.
that is always exciting.
I cannot complain that I have not had an interesting life.
That's like the goal, right? Try everything you can try if you're happy about
Like
it.
it,
I
do
mean,
it again.
don't do anything you don't want to do, but like in general, go out and if you get the chance to try something weird and you're fine with that weird, go try it. It'll,
Yeah,
my rule has always been
give it a
I'll
go.
try anything that sounds interesting twice, because the first time might have been a mistake.
Yeah.
And might have sucked because it was just bad mood or whatever. So I'll try it twice. And if after that I don't like it, then I won't do it anymore. Yeah. So I've tried a lot of things. I encourage people to try a lot of things.
Oh, and dumb stuff. Do dumb stuff. Dumb stuff is so much fun.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
One of the most fun things I ever did was slide down a grassy hilltop on a piece of cardboard. It just sounds like the dumbest thing ever. It is so much fun.
Yeah, that's because you don't get to actually do sleigh riding because you don't have that much snow. I mean, technically, I guess
Exactly.
you do, but
We've got plenty of areas you could go, but they're touristy places and you have to pay. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to
And you go there to ski, not
Do
to
that.
ride a sled
not
down
to
a
just
hill.
be silly."
like sled
Yeah.
riding is such a German hobby thing. Like
In
obviously
America,
snow
where
is
I grew up, it
less,
was
but, like,
too.
yeah, it's just like a thing. Like as a kid, I did that every year.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
And
that's
it's fun.
surprising. I wouldn't have pegged Ida as a smoker. Like Matt, sure. Raph, sure.
I
Dairy,
feel like I know who came
I
to
don't
it.
smoke, Britain. I'm not a smoker.
I did very briefly in a previous life when I was in my teens. Very
Oh,
briefly.
okay.
And yeah, I'd quit before a lot of people started. No,
I smoked a lot for many years. I still have my last pack of cigarettes in a drawer behind me. Mitch,
Oh, you'll encounter
are-
lots of other firsts if you do that. I don't recommend the cavity search.
what I'll recommend, because I shoplifted a lot when I was a teenager. What I would recommend, first of all, put good shoes on because you might have to run. And better though, don't get caught.
Yeah, don't get caught.
Yeah, we got caught. We were banned from numerous shops when I was a teenager.
Well, you're lucky that's all it was.
We didn't. Yeah, no, it was the 80s, so we didn't.
I know. I was there.
Our fingernails pulled out by the government or anything like that. Yeah.
K2U3. No, snus is something different. Snus is as I said, like patches of tobacco you put into your cheek.
Yeah.
Whereas snuff tobacco is literally like powdered tobacco. You put it on your hand and then you snort it out.
Snort it.
Yeah.
Yes, and it
snort it like cocaine.
It goes right into your bloodstream. It wakes you up. It makes you feel sober for a second, even if you've been drinking for the last 3 days. And thus, it's very
in the Victorian era when you could be getting opium from your local
Darko, he had a little operation going on.
Darko, did you realize at the time that you could have used that money to buy the things in the shop?
But now he could buy the beer that he wasn't old enough to buy.
Yeah, well, but you shoplift. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have tried cocaine and I have tried snuff, and they are definitely very different things. Very different things.
Why am I not surprised you've tried cocaine, man?
I only tried it once.
Because we were alive in the 80s.
Good point.
I had back then a lot of very druggy friends. There isn't a drug I haven't tried except crack and heroin.
Yeah, because they're more recent kind of.
Well, and they're also
dangerous things.
To me, there was always a line. There was like
not the hardcore addictive drugs.
Is this fun? And afterwards, I don't need it.
There's a point at which there isn't enough fun to outweigh the dangerous.
That's like even Lemmy of Motorhead said, like, the one drug you shouldn't try is heroin because that one will actually kill you. Everything else you can sort of get figured out, but that one will kill you.
That one will not only kill you, but before it kills you, it will ruin your life.
Life and people around you. I mean, there's too much bad attached to it to be worth the little good you get from it.
Yeah, I tried coke once, and we did a lot of it on one day, and afterwards I was like, oh, okay, so this is the drug that makes you the biggest asshole in the world. Yeah.
This one removes all filters.
I'm glad I tried it so that I know kind of what it is, but I don't need to do it again. And luckily I wasn't in a social space. This was an exception. My normal social space wasn't somewhere that I could get it easily. Because it is
weed is easy.
I did a lot of acid back in the day.
Yeah.
So,
that's something I would love to try. Like, I would love to try acid or like LSD in some way or form, because
or like peyote or something.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I want to know: do I get visuals if I take psychedelics or not?
I would.
There's science behind this.
I will buy acid for you if we can figure out a way to hook your brain up so I can see what's going on.
What does your brain?
I'd be really interested what a blind person on acid experiences. That would be, or mushrooms, because mushrooms you don't really hallucinate. It just makes the things that you see different, like more intense. And if you can't see,
well, what does that do?
I'm fascinated. I'd be really interested.
Fascinated.
Yeah,
it is a fascination.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I'm doing this for science, and Ron, I've not done cocaine either, and I don't think I should, because from all I know, cocaine just makes you more of the person you already are, in making you more of an asshole. And I'm already obnoxious enough. I should not do cocaine. That will not be good for anyone.
You already talk more than enough.
Exactly.
Coke makes you talk twice as fast and twice as much.
And it can make you unbearable to be around. And
that's what it's like. I'm already there. I should not do that.
When we were doing coke,
isn't very bright, they're brilliant to be around when they're on it. Because suddenly they're talking stuff they've never spoken before, and you're like, oh, who knew?
I had a trip when I visited a friend who lived in LA, and I was living in Australia. So I flew to LA, and he was one of my druggy friends from Australia. So I said, you got to get some gear, and we'll have a good weekend. and he worked with a bunch of drug dealers at a special effects company in LA doing 3D graphics. So he went to the first one, and the guy was like, "Ooh, it's really tight right now, and I'm not sure I can get anything." And he's like, "Well, whatever you can get, I'll take it." And he went to the
That's the wrong thing to say to your dealer.
That's a very
Exactly.
dangerous thing.
And he went to the second guy and did the same thing, and we went to the third guy and did the same thing. And then he picked me up at the airport, and I was like, "How's the situation?" And he was like, "Well,
We have some options.
it's really difficult to get anything right now, but I worked it out." And we got to his place, and he opened a box, and there was everything in it.
Yeah.
Like there was Coke, there were mushies, there was speed, there was acid, there, just like weed, hash, everything was in this box. And we did all of it that weekend. And at one point when we were on Coke, we called up one of our friends in Australia who could never quite tell us what his job was.
Mm-hmm.
Because he worked for the military, but he worked in some sort of intelligence branch.
Yeah.
Right.
And we called him at work.
Yeah, right.
And we were like, talk to Paul, passing the phone back and forth. And Pierce, our friend, couldn't get a word in edgewise. He's like, guys, my calls are recorded. Guys.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Oh, wow.
He just hung up on us after a while.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I will say the conversation in the chat about weed is, I find, quite entertaining. It's not legal in New Zealand, and it has not yet been decriminalised, but that's been in the works for a while. But it's very easy to get hold of in New Zealand. There's a lot of growing places in New Zealand. So mushies and weed is easy here.
Yeah.
And quite often here, it's more a question of everybody knows someone, because 3 degrees of separation.
Sure.
And it becomes, what do you want? Do you want a sleepy weed, or do you want an elephant weed? What do you want? Because they all do different things. And it's almost connoisseur-like when it's like trying to pair your weed to your mood. What do you do? Are you going to a wedding? Okay.
Are you going to be eating cheese?
Friendly.
What kind of cheese?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had one bad experience with weed, and I lost a whole weekend. And I came to myself at my desk at work on Monday going, I'm at work.
Oh, no.
Did I drive here?
Yeah.
Where's my car? I genuinely had no idea how I'd got to work that day. Did I catch the bus? Did I drive? And I had to go out at lunchtime to see if my car was parked. And I'd driven. I found my car at lunchtime.
I've never had a weed blackout.
And I've never had it since. And since then, my drug of choice comes in a bottle, because I can very clearly define A, what it's going to do to me, and B, what my limits are.
Yeah.
So, that's. But
Yeah,
before that,
I stopped everything when I started meditating.
Yeah.
Like, I just realized pretty quickly that
a lot of it you don't need once you figure out.
and also it's just not compatible.
Yeah.
Like most of the drugs that I was taking, they don't go away very quickly. They have an effect on your mind for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like if I had smoked hash on Saturday and I was trying to meditate on Monday, I couldn't.
Yeah.
My mind was just so fuzzy
Still
and all over the
bouncing,
place
yeah.
that
Matt,
I couldn't do it.
I can just imagine you just like snorting coke and then trying to meditate. You're just like sitting there and you're looking. It's probably impossible to do. So
That wasn't that kind of weekend.
Oh, okay.
No.
Don't
Definitely not. No, it was like, I feel like the coke's wearing off a bit. Should we take some mushies?
Yeah. What else do you do?
Yeah. We were just going.
I'm
It
starting
was
to
like
feel
You're just
normal.
chucking them
Next.
in, like
it was like 48 hours of just nonstop.
So
Yeah.
you had your very own Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but in this case, it was close to.
Basically, yes.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
pretty wild. It was a very
You
weird
get to tick it
weekend.
off the bucket list and go, "You okay?
Yeah.
Well, I've done
So
that."
Thornell just made like the most black metal statement of the entire chat today.
He did, didn't he?
20 tequila shots, 5 beers, 2 Ozos, and half a bottle of vodka. The forest was calling
man,
for
that is
vengeance.
impressive.
That is
How did you
pretty,
not die?
How do you
That is
know the
pretty
tree
death
you
metal.
were talking to wasn't also an ant going, "Shut up! Stop telling people! Shut up!" You don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, you're.
No.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I've been drunk maybe twice in my life, and
Oh,
it removes your inhibitions. You're just whatever comes to mind. you're
Really?
just saying
Does it?
I know.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
know,
for
Josh.
explaining that, Britton.
I know.
I never would have known
Okay.
otherwise.
He's only been drunk twice. He's
Yeah,
allowed to.
that's true. It's new. It's new. You'll get the hang of
All
it.
right, we're only teasing, Alan. We were that
Yeah.
age once.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but like that's like the thing with weed, right? Like weed is legal in Germany now, which is good. But, like,
Actually, can I interrupt you briefly?
Yeah.
Yay, Max is doing
Max is
well.
yeah,
Evie
Max
is
is
back.
doing okay.
Max is her
Hooray!
dog.
That's
and
so good.
she was worried that she was going to have to rush him to the emergency vet tonight.
Yeah, he still has an
But
unsettled tummy, but he
he's
seems to be
eating
doing
at
better.
least, which is excellent. So glad to hear that, Evie. Please continue, Ralph.
Yes, sorry, as do we.
Yeah.
I was going to say that
I know, yeah,
like
I'm only 23.
edibles or like putting weed in, hash into like
Yeah.
hot chocolate or whatever. That stuff is way more dangerous than just like.
Oh,
smoking
hell
something.
yeah. The best way is to melt it into your butter.
Yeah.
I never really did
Melt it into your butter.
edibles. And I went to a party, and Anne is a really good cook.
Mhm.
And Anne it was her party, and she made hash cookies.
Yeah.
And I had one, and I was like, oh my God, that's delicious.
Yeah,
Give
and
me
then
another
danger
one.
is to keep eating
Give
them
me
and,
another
oh,
one.
no.
Yeah.
Give me another one. And I've never had the spins like I did at that party.
That was my
I had-
blackout
I had to
experience.
leave.
Was a really well-made cake.
Yeah. Oh my
And-
God. That was
oh.
too much.
And I had
Yeah.
like the tiniest bit of this cake.
Yeah, the worst part is like when people when you go to a party and they have that and you're like, this cake is really good, and then you realize, oh, after like five pieces, oh shit, that was the weed cake. I didn't know that
Yeah.
until I,
Ooh.
Yeah, I almost ate
Yeah.
some weed cookies once, and my friend was like, you don't want to eat those cookies. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
And then she's like,
Yeah,
you don't
too
want to
late.
eat them.
Wrong kind of cookies. Yeah, no, you have to give it a lot of time. Anne actually told me that, but I was like a drug hero at the time. So
Oh, yeah.
I was like, it's gonna be fine, no problem. Give me another one. She's like,
Because
you
it
really
takes
should
such
you
a
really
slow
should
rate.
eat
That's
one and
always a
wait
great
for half
thing
an
to
hour.
say.
A lot of it.
Won't lead
Yeah.
to disaster at all.
Yeah, it was a mess. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a trick, Capricious Fox. Getting drunk might make you very drowsy. It certainly depends
It can do.
somewhat on what you're drinking. Because here's a trick.
And who you're
Beer.
drinking with.
I was just going to
That
say
also.
the situation has something to do with
No,
it.
but
Yeah.
there's like another thing. Like beer does have, because of the hops, does have some additional stuff that is not
Addictive,
THC, but it's closer to like the cannabis sort of like stuff. So beer usually makes people slightly mellower and so forth. Whereas if you go and drink vodka or something, that'll probably make you aggressive and fighty in a way.
They do, and there's differences too in because they words. There's a generalization there that as a whiskey drinker, I'm supposed to be an angry drunk.
Yeah.
I tend not to be an angry drunk. I tend to be a very loud drunk, but not an angry one. Beer will put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Wine will make me aggressive and then put me to sleep.
Mhm.
But
I mean, ultimately, they all put you to sleep.
I mean,
That's the
ultimately,
point.
they
I
do
thought
this.
wine was supposed to be. I thought whiskey was the stuff that makes you angry.
and that's the thing. Traditionally, that's the thing that goes together is that people who drink whiskey get angry. I basically
I would go with
now
vodka
and
for
say,
that, but yeah.
Oh, vodka tastes terrible. Ugh.
I mean,
All
vodka
alcohol
comes from Russia, and everyone in Russia is
potatoes.
angry. So
Look, potatoes,
buddy.
the MVP of the world. It's everything. It has an answer for everything.
Yeah.
Potatoes. Comfort.
yeah,
mashed
it's hard to
potatoes.
imagine that like potatoes didn't exist in Europe
Munchies, fries,
Until-
or chips.
16th century, I think it was something like
I
that.
know, it's crazy because Walter
Yeah.
Raleigh brought them back.
Yeah.
So yes, 16th.
Now that we've talked about all the drugs,
Love it.
I think I'm going to call it because it's almost 11 in the evening here.
Fair. It's yeah.
Unless you're Russian, then I've had Russian friends. They'll just drink that shit off the bottle.
I like
You're
water.
I had a Ukrainian girlfriend, and the first time I met her
insane.
dad, I brought him a bottle of scotch because I love scotch, right? And
Yeah.
I knew he's Ukrainian, he's ex-military. I'm sure he drinks a
Oh,
lot.
he'll drink. Yeah.
So I brought him a bottle of scotch. He didn't know scotch, and he got out glasses that were basically
tumblers?
tall drinking glasses. And I was like, no, that's not how you drink whiskey. And I showed him, like, okay, here's a larger glass, but you only fill it this much. And he was like, why so little?
Yeah.
I was like, it's a sipping drink. It's a sipping drink. And he got into it. He thought it was nice. He enjoyed it. And then when dinner started, he got the the tall
The
drinking
big
glasses out again,
Yeah.
but only for the men. He got one, I got one, and he filled it with vodka.
Yeah.
Like full.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is as much vodka as I would drink in 2 days normally if I was drinking vodka. Like,
Kill
what are
you.
you doing? But I was like, I'm a guest. He's my girlfriend's father. I need to impress him. I'll try and keep up. So I drank that. And of course, as soon as it was empty, he filled it again.
Yeah.
It was messy. It was messy.
I can imagine that happened to me. I was like at a festival, and I was just like sitting in the beer garden, and my friend went to get new beers, right? And some Russian guy sits down opposite of me, and he barely speaks English, and my English was much worse back then. And he's from Russia, and he puts down shot glasses and a bottle that is a plastic bottle that probably held Pepsi at some point and doesn't have like a label on it. And he's like, I brought this, and he pours me a shot, and he pours me a shot. So I, being polite, I drink that shot. And then he does it again. And being polite, I do it again. And we keep doing that. And then he just like keels over and falls off the bench. And that's exactly the moment when my friend comes back with the beers and goes like, Raf, here's your beer. We got to leave. And I'm like, why? It's like, you just drank a Russian under the table. You want to go somewhere because you're going to throw up in like
You're
2
going to be
minutes.
ill.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm officially impressed. Well done, Raf. That's a high benchmark.
I did not drink an ex-brigadier general of the Ukrainian army under the table.
I mean,
I at some point I had to say to him, I was like, dude, like I could do this all night, but it might kill me. So we should probably stop before you kill your girlfriend's boyfriend, or your daughter's boyfriend. Thank you very much. It's been an experience, but I have to stop.
Die.
Yeah, no, I was very.
Like, I have work tomorrow.
Yeah. It was a mess. Anyway, I'm calling
as we were saying.
Yeah, it's late in Germany anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody on the stream. Thank you, all of the people in the chat that I can only see by running YouTube. I should have maybe restarted Restream early in the stream.
One quick thing, though, the good thing about using YouTube and reading it on YouTube is, in fact, that you have less of a delay. Yeah, because
it's not translating it over to Restream. That's true.
Get that delay.
I've never noticed that the delay is that much of a problem, really. So, but anyway,
Terry, everyone has a great week.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody have a great week. I hope you're reading awesome stuff. I don't want to make a thumbnail with this book on it next week. So, because I think I've had 3 thumbnails in a row with this book on it. So
you need to get into it.
Yeah,
well, I'll be doing
book.
Sprints at like 8 a.m. tomorrow. So in 9 hours, I'll be back doing sprints.
8 a.m. I am in a habit right now
of
staying up far later than I should, and then getting up as late as I can. So I think I'll miss your sprints at 8 a.m.
The question is, how does Fitz deal with you sleeping in?
Not that well.
I imagine.
we play a game around 8 in the morning where
the tragedy is Fitz always
claws me and all over, like sometimes my feet, sometimes my ass, whatever.
Yeah, whatever's hanging out of the blankets.
I violently kick her off the bed.
See, one of these days you'll wake up and Fitz will be watching my sprints while you're still asleep.
That is possible. I might wake up and Fitz is just eating one of my fingers. That
is also possible.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody.